and welcome to another episode of Schiffbauer Over Rocks. Today I got someone special. And by special, I mean we're going to learn a lot today, ladies and gentlemen. We got Zach Detwiler, or Detwiler, my apologies, of Thrive Fitness. So, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Paul.
So, with Thrive Fitness, you do something in particular in terms of like your approach. You want to tell folks your general approach to wellness and fitness overall?
Yeah, I think my approach is very holistic minded,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been training clients now for 12 years.
Okay.
And throughout that process, I've kind of gone on my own journey of wellness and fitness. And I've found that you really can't just focus on the physical
Mm-hmm.
without addressing the mental, emotional, nutritional side of things. It's a whole package.
Okay.
So when I work with somebody, I start off, I give them a really comprehensive questionnaire. Along with that, we have a follow-up conversation where we talk about where they want to go, where they've been, and then what have been some of the roadblocks for them in achieving their fitness goals or just overall goals that are tied to fitness or health.
You said 12 years. And to me, you and I do something very similar. We service clients top level. So I'm sure that questionnaire, that probably has seen several iterations over time.
Yeah, actually, I recently shortened it because it was 8 pages long,
Really?
which
That is comprehensive.
not ideal for when you're first meeting with somebody. Their eyes glaze over and they go, "Wow, this is a lot of information you're asking for." But I've condensed it down to the stuff that's really relevant, and then the rest of it just comes out as a relationship with the client unfolds.
What is your biggest qualifier for you to take on someone as a new client? I'm saying it from like my
Yeah,
client service lens. I always find it fascinating, folks in different fields, how they do that.
yeah, I enjoy working with just about anybody, but I'd say my ideal client is someone who's retired or nearing retirement, and they've reached a stage of their life where they have time freedom that's opening up to them. They have freedom to travel and do things, but they might be limited by physical disabilities or things that they realize they've reached this retirement now, and they've held off on traveling, they've held off on doing things that they love to do, and they have the means to do it, but physically they can't. So I love working with clients like that who are older adults. I also enjoy working with entrepreneurs, like yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And
Shout out to Dane. This is how we got connected on this
yeah,
one.
shout out to Dane. So it's fun. I find that working with older adults too is really eye opening for me because they've experienced um, a wide gamut of things throughout their lives, and when you talk with them, they're real.
Mm-hmm.
Like they say things how it is, and they don't sugarcoat anything. So we usually get to their why pretty quickly. And that's another thing in the intake process with my clients. You hear Simon Sinek talk about the why,
Yeah.
and that's a popular thing now. You hear in a lot of circles is you're getting to your why. As far as with training clients, it's, well, why did you come see me? And weight loss is very surface level. They want to get stronger is very surface level.
Yeah, I feel like you got to chip away. There's more to that.
Yeah. So you have to ask those questions. And I simply like asking, why is that important to you? What brought you here? And they might give me another layer deep answer, but then following that up with another why question or a what question, eventually getting to their real core of why it is that health is important to them. And just to give an example, I had a client several years ago. His initial why was weight loss. And when we got to the core of his why, it was because he struggled with traveling because he couldn't fit on a plane very well.
And it's sure emotionally, that's very embarrassing and
Yeah.
like upsetting for him.
And his daughter lived on the other side of the US. He wanted to visit her. He physically had trouble with doing that.
Okay, that's big.
So
That's
it's
a
huge.
that's a huge
It's huge.
emotional pull right there.
So when we got to that core, it was definitely a motivating factor for him, and it allowed us to go into that training and trainer client relationship and really get him some results that he wanted. He was consistent. You know, I created a program for him. He consistently did it. And over time, he achieved that and more. Ended up going to Colorado, being able to ski and do
That's
other
crazy.
things that he couldn't do before.
Yeah, going from having trouble traveling to skiing.
Yeah.
That's a sounds like a crazy transformation over time.
Yeah. So experiences like that I think are most fulfilling in what I do.
Tell me more about. I know you mentioned holistic. Tell me more about the mental part. What goes into that? You talked a little bit. You touched on it a little bit, in my opinion, with the whole kind of getting to know your client's process. Where like weight loss, but let's really uncover, and chip away why we're
Yeah.
doing this.
So I always preface when I when I ask questions to clients, I say, I'm not a therapist, but
Oh man, some days I feel like I'm a therapist to my clients or colleagues of mine, but that's okay.
yeah.
To me, I think it just comes with the territory.
Yeah. Again, you can't talk about physical health without going into mental health as well.
It's to me, you're not
They're
doing your
tied
clients a
together.
service if you're keeping it on the surface level, physical.
Yeah. So, I mean, surface level, at the very least, finding out, you know, are they dealing with motivation? Is that motivation tied to lack of ability to do things physically? Or is it something else going on in their life that, if I'm not aware of that, I could give them the best program in the world. They can do it consistently and they still won't get the results they want. And they still will be unsatisfied because there's that aspect of their life that I had no idea about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So mental emotional piece is really important. The way I worked that into, you know, training sessions and so on is just have a check-in, you know, at the beginning of a session. How'd the week go? How's the week going? Is there anything that you want to share since our last session? And how can I support you right now and in between now and next session?
It's funny you bring that up in a good way. I do a peer group once a month to start a second one that's like a virtual hybrid right now. Been running it for 2 years, but we meet once a month, 3 hours, and we do a check-in process where essentially it's a triangle. You have business on the top left-hand corner, life, which are your VIPs, your very important people in your life,
Okay.
in the top right, then me's the bottom. And you give a score to each, but me's at the bottom, you internally, because if you're not doing well, putting yourself first, doesn't matter how good business and life are doing, they're going to come lower
that.
down over time.
Yeah, I like that. That's good.
So to me, business is personal and personal in the sense where it is the mental, emotional aspect. So even in your field too, if people are just coming in for weight loss, it's more than just that physical,
Exactly.
like I want that transformation. It's some kind of mental component or emotional pull that's driving them to you in the first place.
Exactly.
It's your job to uncover it, you know, kind of build that rapport with them over time.
Yeah, and another thing I've learned over the years is I like to solve problems. It's like innate in me as a person, but I can't solve all the problems out there. They're not mine to solve. So I've learned to create a network of other health professionals who are more qualified than I am in certain areas, who have a skill set that I don't have. And I have this network of people now that I can refer out to,
That's pretty cool,
which is awesome. So like,
especially from the fitness standpoint.
yeah. So for example, this past year I created a relationship with a local physical therapist, and we text back and forth about clients. You know, I refer to him, he refers to me. And it's awesome to have that because it's like, again, I am knowledgeable in what I do. I'm confident in what I do, but there's certain things that are just out of my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And it's great to be able to refer someone that's in pain, and as a step in that process of someone reaching better health, physical therapy is important because there's a lot of people with pain. So physical therapy gets you from negative to zero. And then the way I like to say is I get you from zero to wherever you want to go.
I like that. That's cool.
Having that network of people who are in health and wellness and, want to see your clients succeed is really important, especially in today's world where, again, you might not get an appointment with your doctor for a month or two. So if there's something that you can address now that you have control over, like how much you move throughout the day, like your sleeping environment, like what you're eating for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, what you're putting in your body, getting outside during the day, having social relationships in your network of people, like all those things are the pillars of health. And if you don't have that in order and you're trying to address all these other symptoms, it's not going to go anywhere.
It crumbles at that point over time.
It crumbles. And I could go on a tangent here.
Oh, you can go on a tangent on Schiffbauer Over Rocks, Zach.
Our healthcare system needs an overhaul, and I think we're getting to that point where the infrastructure just can't contain.
It's starting to crumble a little bit.
Yeah, and
the chink in the armor.
And the pandemic, I think, really exaggerated that. And now that we're on the other side, people are seeking out healthcare. They have health conditions. More and more people are taking charge of their own health, and not that I recommend 100% not seeing a doctor, not doing any of that. That's still important. There's still a place for that, but there's so much of your own physical health and mental health.
I feel like sometimes people just go to a doctor. I like to say it from a consulting analogy. You just want the pill to the surface level problem rather than actually diagnose what's really going on.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And that's kind of to carry that back to movement. So I'm certified in what's called the functional movement screen.
I'm about to say, we got to tell me more about this FMS on your shirt before we start shooting.
So FMS actually stands for Functional Movement Systems. Mm-hmm. And it's a series of, some of it's education. It's an organization that I discovered a while ago in my beginning of my journey to becoming a trainer. And they offer several education systems, and not necessarily assessments, but screens. Mm-hmm. And the difference between a screen and an assessment usually gives you a passing or a failing score. A screen is something that, like, if you go to your doctor, you get screened for diabetes. Mm-hmm. They're going to tell you, are you low risk, medium risk, or high risk for developing diabetes based on your lifestyle factors, based on all these other things.
It seems kind of vague now that you're saying it like that to me, if it's like 3 categories and that's it.
Yeah, and that was just an example, but as far as movement goes, the functional movement screen, what that does is it does that type of thing for movement.
Interesting.
So you have everybody, when you're born, you go through this developmental process of being able to lie on your back. Mm-hmm. To sit, to crawl, to stand up, to balance on one leg, to run. All of these developmental stages that happen, they're all things that are accessible to just about every human out there.
Yeah.
And then we're conditioned over time, whether it's through our environment, whether it's through injuries, mm-hmm. that we can no longer do these things.
The full range of movement or motion.
The full range of movement. So we get back pain. We have an injury that sets us back. We're no longer able to do certain things we want to do because of an injury or because of
out of breath for whatever reason.
Yeah. Cardiovascular health. What the functional movement screen does is it looks at these movement patterns that we all should have access to, and it gives you a score. So I take my clients through this when I go through an intake process. Mm-hmm. I look at how they squat. I look at how they lunge. I look at how they balance. Pushing, pulling, rotation. And if someone's score is less than ideal, that is going to carry over to a workout program that I create for them. It's going to carry over to their everyday life activity, and it's going to be limiting them in some way. So my job is to find out, okay, what's your baseline, and then where is it that you want to go? Mm-hmm. And where's that disconnect? How do we get you from where you're at now to where you want to go? And it's a great tool for that.
So it's almost, you could reword me, almost like a golf handicap, so they don't get discouraged if they get beat up in your workouts. In a way where it's just kind of like I'm easing you into that way you're not burnt out after the workout.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. It's funny. I work with a lot of golfers, but I know very little about golf.
I barely know anything. I've been once, and I think that's it. I'll sit on the cart, smoke cigars, and have some bourbons with folks. But I just don't have, like, to me, if I'm going to play golf, I'm going to be damn good. I'm not damn good. So that would be something where I would just have to take a time out of my life just to get good at it if I'm really going to go at it.
Yeah, it's definitely a time investment from what I understand. Maybe someday we'll pick it up.
And if not, I'll be sitting here doing podcasts still. So
There you go. So, yeah, the functional movement screen is like a language of movement. And that language tells you where to go, um, how to, for me, how to program for a client.
what other ways do you like kind of embrace technology? That seems like one in particular that's like core.
Yeah, so I also have a tech business that I started last year, and it's also targeted towards older adults and seniors. So my generation, most of the generation grew up with technology from a young age.
It's native to us. It's just like
Yeah,
almost like learning how to play catch when you're a kid.
yeah.
Learn how to use a computer.
You just
Learn how to
you
network
just know how
online.
to do certain things, but older generation, they did not grow up with it. So you have all of this technology that's constantly changing, and it's just part of our way of life now. Everybody has a smartphone, which is a little computer in your pocket. You can do just about everything on it. You could start a business. You can get directions. You can use a calculator. So, um, but a lot of older adults, they haven't been able to keep up with the growth in technology and learn how to use their devices. So that's another thing that I do as
It's
an
an easy
aside.
segue almost. Like in
Yeah,
terms of
yeah.
like, hey, I'm already working with you this way. Why don't we do this?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it's like my coaching and my training business where I'm still instructing, I'm still educating,
Yeah.
and that's something I really enjoy is the education side. So yeah, technology, it's amazing the capabilities now. Like I just got a letter from my insurance company recently, and they're offering a physical therapy that is completely virtual. You never meet with a person.
I've heard about something like this.
They send you a kit, and you wear it's wearable technology. You put it on, and it tracks your movement, and then it gives that information back to the physical therapist on the other end.
Where they can analyze.
They analyze it, and they give you a program based on it. So
Interesting.
this is fairly new technology, and I think there's still a long way to go with working on
It's like biometrics and
perfecting
whatnot.
that.
You got to
Yeah, yeah.
think like how perfect is it?
But as flaws as it might be right now, it's exciting to see things like that come to the surface, and I enjoy learning it. So therefore, I enjoy implementing it too and educating people on it. If I find something that's useful, I'll adopt it. Like for example, so 2 years ago, I started using a technology called Quick Coach, and it's a simplified website, but it's personalized for you and your clients. And it's just basic text, nothing fancy. There's no fancy videos or apps that you have to download. It's all it's a it's a website, but each of my clients has access to all of their workout
Essentially
program
like a
for
portal
their,
for them.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So it's pretty cool to have access to that. It makes things a lot easier. So when I travel, if I'm away, my clients still have their workout program. They know what to do. They have a game plan. Um, and then also too, like just with tracking, tracking is really important. Here's a quote for you. If you don't know where you're going, then any road will get you there. And then another one, if you're not assessing, you're guessing. And when it comes to what I do, if I don't assess a client from the very beginning, and if I don't know where they're going, then any road will get them where they want
I'm
to
about to
go.
say how impactful is your service at that point then if you're not doing that assessment process.
Yeah,
It's kind of like just throwing darts at that point.
it's a shotgun approach, and I think a lot of trainers out there use a shotgun approach. You can throw all the darts at a dartboard, and eventually one will stick.
Do you think they do the shotgun approach because that's what they were taught and observed, or they just lack certain expertise in terms of like expertise from the standpoint of almost the coaching, like client service provider, like hat perspective?
Probably a mixture of both. So training is not regulated in the sense of like if you become a massage therapist, that's not the best example. Use a physical therapist as an example.
Oh, I was going to let you go down that rabbit hole, but
Yeah.
go ahead. Physical therapist.
Physical therapist, they're a physical therapist or doctor of physical therapy. You go to school for 4 years, you have a doctorate, you have education to back up all the knowledge, you or in other cases you have a licensure that you have to renew.
Yeah.
So training has not been as regulated as that. So you can go and get a weekend certification somewhere
I've
and
seen
call yourself a personal trainer.
DJs at Permandy Brothers become
Yeah.
physical trainers, and you're thinking like, huh? Were
Yeah.
you just doing this?
So the knowledge base of someone who calls himself a personal trainer
Yeah.
or a fitness coach out there, it's such a wide variety. So that's why it's important to ask your trainer, ask your coach questions. Where did they get the knowledge that they have? Did they go to school for it? Did they put in time? And I think a lot of that's changing in the industry where there is a higher standard that's coming. We're not quite there yet. And I think that's where we'll start seeing things like more preventative health covered by insurance, which is something I'm excited about. I would love to see insurance companies cover people working with me and what I do, because it's preventative health.
Yeah, and you have the certifications to back it up. I mean, if anyone just goes on his website, there's a whole list of in your bio.
Yeah.
You mentioned some of them today about the whole FMS process.
FMS, yeah, primary training certification through a national organization. Another thing, I just got CPR, AED, first aid recertified. So that's something that's required of pretty much all training certifications out there, but it's helpful to know. It's, it's information that you need when you're working with people and they're exercising and there's health involved.
And I feel like, Zach, I'm sure you've heard this before, seen it. Like people look at like wellness or like personal training coaches, and they look at like the biggest guy or the most ripped person in the gym or like chick. They're like, I want to work with them.
Yeah, yeah.
Doesn't mean they know what they're doing though for you necessarily.
Right.
So I'm sure you've seen a lot of that through your 12 years of doing this.
I have. It is interesting you bring that up, because there's a component of it in what I do. Like, yeah, you want to look the part.
Yeah.
But also there's a lot of people out there with good genes, and they can pick up a weight and suddenly put on a ton of muscle.
Or there's also some of those guys out there who done a little juicing.
There's that too. Or you can eat McDonald's and still have a six-pack. Like, genetics plays a huge component in a lot of that. So it's important to remember that. And just because someone experienced something in their own journey doesn't mean that's the right way for everybody else to go.
I think that you just dropped a very important nugget in terms of what you do. I just smiled when you said about like eating McDonald's. You ever hear the story about Chad Johnson, Ocho Cinco,
No.
when he was playing in the NFL?
No.
So he would joke when he was like at his prime as a wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals. He's like, oh yeah, I'll just go get myself a Big Mac and a large fry from McDonald's, the day leading into a game. And like, he was serious. He's like, I love McDonald's. He's like, I will smoke a couple cigars during the week and just show up to practice. But like, exaggeration or not.
Some people can do that. You can definitely do it more when you're younger.
Yeah.
And then as the aging process takes place, you'll be doing less and less of that. Otherwise,
it's going to hit everybody.
Yeah. Those late nights, they definitely take more of a toll later on.
Oh, I can definitely relate to that. It's something your body just changes going from like your early 20s to like hitting 30.
Yeah.
That's a very real change.
Yeah, you wake up, you start to have a warm-up routine from getting out of bed.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah.
I can feel it. But now I got to ask, because it's like a fatty question. What's your view on something like the carnivore diet?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I have a friend who's doing that right now, and Yeah, carnivore diet, any diet in general. I'm not a big proponent of diets because the term diet usually means short term.
Yeah, it's not long term like
It's
plan.
it's for an allotted period of time. And my philosophy is anything for an allotted period of time is not a lifestyle change.
Yeah.
I mean, there might be changes that take place during that time that stick longer, but ultimately anything you're doing short term for a certain end goal in mind, it's only going to get you so far. It's not sticking long term. And I'm all about lifestyle changes and sticking long term. So with that said, eating more protein, which is what carnivore diet is a lot of protein, a lot of fat, and there's different variations of the carnivore diet. Some are low carbohydrates, some are no carbohydrates.
That's like to me,
That's
like
an extreme.
I've heard conflicting things about like the whole glucose angle. Like if you take out carbs completely, like how that changes you cognitively and like your mental state.
Yeah. And there's more and more research coming out about it, but it's interesting when you eliminate a whole macronutrient group. So macronutrients, little 101, you have protein, carbohydrates, and fat. All foods contain some percentage of those. So if you think of it as a pie, 100% being some variation of those three nutrients. Every food has some amount of protein, carbohydrates, and fats in it.
Yeah.
Pick up a piece of steak, it's mostly protein and fat, small amount of carbohydrates.
Very minimal.
You pick up a piece of bread, mostly carbohydrates, small amount of protein, small amount of fat. Vegetables, same thing, high amount of carbohydrates, usually a lower amount of protein, lower and almost no fat. So when you eliminate a whole macronutrient group like carbohydrates, your body's missing out on all the benefits and all the processes that your body goes through that it needs things. It needs glucose. Like your body needs energy. And when you have carbohydrates, your body's able to use that as one of the primary sources of energy. So you're going to be irritable. You're going to have
That's what I hear. I've been toying around
Yeah.
experimenting with it. I'm like, let me ask one of the professional. I have him on my podcast.
Yeah. So that's kind of the overview of it. But if you want to make changes in your eating, you want to eat healthier, one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give is eat more whole foods.
Yeah.
So if you're eating mostly processed foods, if you're going out a lot, you're eating
more likely you're eating majority processed foods, regardless if they say this
food.
is fresh or not, even at restaurants.
Because there's a whole, recently I got into cooking. It's something I've always enjoyed food, but within the past year or so, have just really enjoyed sitting down with a recipe, buying the ingredients, making a meal, and the whole process that's involved with that. And when it takes you an hour to make a meal, shop for a meal, make a meal, you appreciate that process more. Like where the food comes from, the work that goes into it.
This tastes better because I sourced this.
It tastes better. Yeah. You can add seasonings and things to spice it up. So that's been a cool part of my journey too, of just making food more,
understanding that side of it more.
Yeah.
Like nutrition, but like actually like getting in the kitchen literally.
Yeah. And experimenting with different things. Back to the carnivore diet. Yeah. Protein is very important for a lot of things in the body. Hormones, muscle building, various other things too. So you need those macronutrients. If you're trying to lose weight, yes, it's helpful to have more protein, less carbohydrates, and less fat. If you're trying to gain muscle, it's helpful to have more calories. So fat, protein are helpful to have. A lot of the carbohydrates in our standard American diet, though, come from processed food.
Yeah, they're not almost real carbohydrates.
Carbohydrates, a lot of people, sometimes look over this, but vegetables are carbohydrates. So when you're eliminating carbohydrates, you're eliminating vegetables or fruit. Most of us, we require slightly different needs as far as protein amount, carbohydrates, fat, water intake, all of that. We each need a little bit different amount, but for the most part, having a balanced diet, as much as that term's overused, is important.
Let's talk about balance. You put it on your intake form something about, I'm paraphrasing, balance is not necessarily the key.
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing it.
It's not the destination. For a while, I sought out balance in my life and training and other aspects. And I think what I've come to right now, and talk to me in a year and I might change my mind.
We're human. That's okay.
Yeah.
Zach, that's growth one way or another if you have a different opinion a year from now.
That's right. That's what's cool about growth is you look back on your life a year from now, and it's like you're looking at a completely different person. We evolve, we grow.
To me, the last year personally felt like 3.
Yeah.
In certain ways.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, well, I can tell you about it after you
Yeah.
finish your thought.
Yeah.
But
So balance, I don't think that balance is always what you should be after. I think there's periods of your life, like I said a little while ago, you'll go through and things will be out of balance, but that's okay.
I think as long as you're aware of it and can manage that imbalance in some retrospect.
Yeah.
Like you're fully aware, like this is like you're putting all this time here and you're lacking here.
Right.
As long as you're aware of it, that's when I think it doesn't become dangerous.
Yeah, when it's conscious, when there's a conscious effort to invest more time in a certain area for a purpose.
Correct. Otherwise, it's just chaos.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if you have kids, but
I do not.
when,
I don't know. I'm kidding. Bad joke.
when you have a newborn at home, sleep is out of balance.
Balance is out the door, I hear. It doesn't matter
out the door.
what kind of child you have or what kind of structure you have at home. That's a newborn. Forget it.
Yeah. So obviously that time of your life is going to be out of balance with sleep. But there's a part of your life that you'll have fulfillment in because you have a new child. You get to go through that growth process too of raising a child and experiencing that.
You hit that peak, of imbalance, but like you hit the peak.
Yeah. Same with business. It's like there's a time for building, and putting in the work, doing late nights, doing 12-hour days, 10-hour days.
Guilty as charged.
I've done it too. And then there's also time for just sitting back and enjoying all of the effort and progress that you made, and going away on vacation or taking time off. That's necessary too.
Yeah, and it's kind of circles back. It seems paradoxical when I was talking about the pyramid earlier, about like my peer group. But like you just said, you're not necessarily going to get to that 10 in business if you're not sacrificing something in your life.
Right.
Or vice versa. We're like, hey, you want the perfect friends and family network outside of business. I got to chill out working overtime.
That's right.
So it's a give and take like that. And I think that's okay.
Yeah. And to tie that back to, with the clients I work with, there might be a part in our trainer-client relationship where I say, hey, are you willing to make this sacrifice? Like, are you willing to
want this,
not go out as much?
But this is what it might take.
Yeah, this is what it might take. There's a really cool infographic. It's from Precision Nutrition, which is a company I follow. They offer certification for nutrition. It's great, really comprehensive. But they have an infographic that really puts things into perspective, and it says the cost of getting lean, and it has these categories of body fat. And at the one end, you have like a bodybuilder with single-digit body fat percentages. At the other end, you have overweight or obese, and then you have all the categories in the middle. And each stage has more and more trade-offs.
Yeah,
and
pros and cons.
It's a great visual for somebody. Do more of this, do less of this. And as you get further...
From a visualization standpoint.
Yeah, from a visualization, exactly. As you get further down towards have that six-pack, like no body fat, you're looking good.
Looks great.
But
you probably feel great to some extent.
You have no social life. You're constantly eating the same foods over and over. There's no variety.
My buddy Brent, shout out to him. He does a lot of like bodybuilding. He's like trying to get into like the shows. He's done a few. That's
Cool.
his thing. That's his outlet. But he puts himself through that sacrifice that you said, where like he's eating the same shit day in and day out, doing the workouts day in and day out.
Chicken, rice,
If he
broccoli.
goes out on a weekend, he's having one drink, and it's the healthiest drink you can have. Vodka with a lime,
Vodka
and
with
maybe
lime.
a splash of water. That's the healthiest thing you can drink. And more than one
Yeah.
drink, it's just like he's like that to the book when he's training for a competition, putting your muscle mass, like decreasing at risk the more alcohol you drink.
Yeah. And that life's not for me.
Yeah,
And-
no, absolutely not.
and for the- Cheers to that.
Absolutely, Zach.
Enjoying life. And most of the clients I work with too, they're not wanting to make those trade-offs.
And that's okay as long as they're aware of if they wanted that. This is realistically what we're aiming for, based on what you want to do and commit to, and want to sacrifice.
Yeah.
I think as long as that expectation is met, that's okay. They just got to be aware of that. It's the same thing in my business where you want 5x the amount of leads in 3 to 6 months. Okay, well, we got to tweak your website. We're going to overhaul your paid ad strategy. Wait. My website's fine. Okay, we can run ads, but it's just it'll be limitations of what we do. It's the same thing kind of. Actually, it's funny. We started to roll out a program called HFA, Home Field Advantage, where
Okay.
it's a 90-day program where we'll run ads for a client and we just audit all their digital marketing accounts and presence online. Good, bad, and ugly. What's room for improvement and growth during that process? So I'm
That's cool.
kind
I
of
mean,
structured like a workout almost.
yeah,
program.
I'd imagine you gain a lot of information from that.
Yes, and then sometimes one client in particular, they're not necessarily pleased with what's going on because it already told them there are problems going into the mirror they got to look into. So they're hitting it nail on the head right now with us. But we told you this could happen.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah, so you have to know what the trade-offs are up front. It's helpful to have a guide, coach in that process. And if you're willing to make those trade-offs and put in the work, then it pays off. But if not, then just go about life the same way you were before.
So I've been inconsistent with my nutrition and workouts probably the past 3 to 4 months. But beforehand, I want to get back in a routine here.
Okay.
I did 75 hard.
Tell me about that because I'm not as familiar. I've heard of it.
It's one of these like fad things right now, but I did it, Zach, at the most like on paper obscene time of year during the holidays.
Okay.
So it's no drinking. I like to drink. 2-day workouts, 45 minutes outside, walk, cardio, whatever,
Okay.
and then 45 minutes something else structured. So typically I'll do like free weights at my house or like go to the gym. So 90 minutes of working out, 10 pages from a book a day reading,
Okay.
and then some kind of diet. I said it was kind of 75 semi-hard because I just did intermittent fasting. I was just more conscious of what I was eating. I wasn't like on a stone cold diet, partially because of what you said. If I'm not going to do it long term, it's only like a minor change.
Sure.
But I kind of put this through a mental test. Can I do 75 hard, working out an hour and a half, 45 minutes when it started to get real bitter cold out?
How'd it go?
Oh, I did it. 75 days in a row I did it.
Awesome.
Wrapped up middle January. I was really proud of myself.
Yeah. Awesome.
It was a good mental test for me.
And what coming out on the other side of that? What were the differences? How did you feel?
Felt better cognitively, physically. Lost a little bit of that since this influx with my schedule right now, but nothing like earth shattering. Hence why I'm trying to find something more adaptable to my lifestyle right now in the season that I'm in. But to me, it was a bigger mental test than it was a physical test.
Yeah, and that's a good point you bring up because a lot of it is mental. You know, what are you willing to withstand?
Forcing an hour and a half every day, where sometimes I'm only doing it a couple days a week, 45 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
So that was an aggressive change.
It was aggressive, yeah.
Fucking jogging out in the rain. I think it was starting to snow the one day.
Oh, no way.
You have to do it though, or you have to restart. So I did it literally during the holidays. People thought I was nuts. I didn't drink at all during the holidays. No cheating.
I think I would have said, Paul, good luck.
But I get the whole mental aspect just going through that small period of my life doing
Yeah.
that. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, that builds something in you that says like a self-confidence that like, oh, I did this before, I can do it again.
I could do it again.
Or I
I could
could do
start
something
tomorrow
harder.
if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Do I want to right now?
Yeah.
Not necessarily, but
And that's so key, and is that building the self-confidence. Because yeah, a lot of the things that you're going to do when you create change, it's hard.
I think I'm going to go something comparable, Zach, starting mid-June, because I'm going on a 3-month, like, heavy outbound sales campaign.
Okay.
So just me being that sharp again.
Yeah.
Like, going on, like you just talked about, you went on like a trip, about to go on a trip, get through that, and then hit the books again.
Yeah. There's nothing like coming back to the routine after you've disconnected from that for a little while.
Yeah, I need to get back to something like that.
You get perspective, you feel refreshed, and usually sparks creativity too. You get new ideas.
It absolutely does. I mean, it forced myself where certain things I would do creatively, my routine's different.
Yeah.
But like I'm almost forcing myself to think and operate differently, just to see the different perspectives of things.
Yeah. I'm a big proponent of that.
So it was cool in that regard. I know Marty up there was singling for last call, but I got one final question before any final comments you might have. When I had Dana on a while back, he's a client of yours, and he mentioned about you had him prep essentially his eulogy,
Yes.
what that would look like. And I was taken back about that as like almost like a mental exercise. How did you even conceive something like that and put it into practice with some of your clients?
Yeah. I'd love to take credit for it.
No, it's okay. No, the best ideas are pilfered and
Yeah.
superimposed.
It came from a blog that I was on, and the idea came from, I'm going to forget. I forget exactly the origin of it, but this idea of creating a eulogy with the end goal in mind. And I thought, wow, like that is really impactful, and that could be impactful for my clients in this process of holistic wellness and
Especially if this is a long-term lifestyle for them.
yeah,
Even if they might have an ending period with you at some point, you want them to continue on that holistic path.
yeah, because at the forefront is this eulogy, or what is it that you want to be remembered by when you picture yourself at your funeral. Yeah.
I'll get a floral shirt or something.
Nice. Going out in style. You picture yourself there, your friends, your family are there, they're talking about you. What is it that you want to be remembered by? And it really is a wake-up call for, am I living the life that I want to live? And is what I'm saying congruent with how I'm showing up in the world? When it comes to health and wellness, it's like, if I'm not where I want to be, I'm in the driver's seat. Like, I have control over that.
At the end of the day, you do.
At the end of the day, you do. So, considering those existential questions,
Because we're all going to be there.
we're all going to be there. Nobody gets out alive.
Yeah, no, so that's the thing. Like, it seems more, but it's not. It's resonant with anybody, regardless of your
Yeah.
faith or spiritual background.
Right.
There's an ending.
That's exactly right. So, a eulogy, creating a eulogy, and then from that, another part of that same activity is you're writing your personal mission statements. And it's good to narrow it down to 3 or 4. You can have more than that, but it's helpful to have 3 or 4 that are kind of at the forefront. So what are the roles that you play in life, as if you were acting in a play, and write down an exhaustive list of roles, and then narrow that down to your top 5, and then try to narrow that down even further to your top 3, and top 3 being, what are the 3 most important roles that you're showing up as right now?
Okay, I like that. Because I think it can't be no more than 3.
Yeah, because you only
We
have so
are
much time.
we're different roles for different people, too.
Right. Where once you figure out what those 3 are, you write mission statements. A couple paragraph for each one, and take time to do it, because it's easy to go through this activity, go through the motions, write down something, and it be up here. But if you really want to get something out of it, take time, go away for the weekend, like take time to do this and write down this exhaustive list, narrow it down.
I'm a big proponent
Narrow
of
down
this,
your mission statement.
going off the grid a day or two to think about things just like that.
Yeah.
I think we all need to do that and structure the time for it at times.
I completely agree. I think we would all be better off.
Yeah, as a society at large. Just
Yeah.
taking time for ourselves, being selfish in that regard, just to be a better version of yourself when you come back from it.
Yeah, and there's another paradox is when you are selfish and you show up for yourself, you can give more out to the world
Which is so funny how that
and the
works
people
out.
around you.
It's funny how that works out.
It's cool. Yeah. It still blows my mind. Yeah.
Zach, I've had a pleasure today. This was fun.
Agreed. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. We might have to do a follow-up at some point, or you might have to put me through an assessment here.
Oh, I'd love to. We'll do it
That would be a
live.
hell of a vlog series. Smarter, you might have to get in on that. Zach, Thrive Fitness, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Check us out.